Hi, everyone. Welcome to Being Mindful in the Midst of Chaos. Today, we're going to discuss some mindfulness and how to get some shifts in when our mindset is not where we want it to be. So, everyday life has lots of challenges. Let's shift the way that we cope with them. Each one of us has a host of stresses that we deal with on a daily basis at work, home, relationships, in our own head. This event is a place for you to consider new ways to handle that stress in a mentally healthy way with mindfulness and self-care. While you've probably heard both of these terms before, you may not be completely familiar with them. So before we move on, let's define them, okay? Mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something, okay? And self-care is the regulatory function under which an individual control is deliberate and self-initiated. So when we think self-care, a lot of times we think about taking care of ourselves. Some people for self-care, they have a hobby that they do. They might take a bath or different things that they do to take care of themselves when they feel stressed. Okay. Make mental health as much of a priority as your physical health. When it comes to being aware and in control of your mental health, mindfulness and self-care go hand in hand. Before you start taking steps to control the way your mind reacts to chaos and difficult situations, it's important to learn how to be conscious of the chaos and how it affects you. Then you can take measures to mend or redirect your cognitive processes in a different way. So historically, as a society, we've been taught to give our mental health. We haven't been taught to give our mental health the attention that it deserves, right? As a result, we've learned to sweep things under the rug, grin and bear through it, tolerate toxic relationships, overload our schedules because we're too afraid to say no. And so many times this just causes more stress, more problems, and more issues. At the end of the day, right? So it makes things harder. So you can't fix problems that don't belong to you. Whether you're born into a family with difficult people, we find our way to them through friendships, partnerships, co-workers. It's challenging to know how to best respond to someone who brings negativity and happiness into our lives. One of the first things you have to do is that you have to realize that the behaviors being presented to or reflected at you are not your fault. The way that others cope with their feelings is part of their mental health, and it's not a reflection of who you are. So for instance, so this is something that's happened to me, so I can use this. So say that, for instance, I'm trying to think of I want to word this. Someone had a life situation occur, and at the same time, you had a similar life situation occur, but they found out that what they thought was going on within their life. Maybe your fiance proposed to you and their fiance proposed to them at the same time. And their fiance did as an April Fool's joke. So after you went and told your moms that you're engaged and everything else, their fiance ended up breaking up with them. Their fiance did that in a way to be a sabotaging person. And so now, because you're happy, you're engaged, they begin to take their frustrations and anger out on you. That's not a problem that you can fix because that's not your problem. They need to figure out and work through that on their own because they have the problem. It's not a reflection of you. You're not the issue. They're having that issue. Consider how differently two people might react to breaking a drinking glass. One person might throw a fit while the other might just pick the pieces up and move on. Each is a reflection of the person's mental well-being and the ability to cope with their own feelings. So in that same situation, that person could choose to take their feelings and emotions out on that person that's happy, or they can say, you know what, it just wasn't meant to be and move on. But either way, it's not your problem to fix. Distance yourselves from those who bring you more pain than joy. One of the most important aspects of being mindful in the midst of chaos is taking measures to eliminate as much of the chaos as possible. Oftentimes, the source of chaos and negativity comes from people who we choose to surround ourselves with. While we can't control every interaction we have, when it comes to our regular daily interactions, it's our job to develop firm and clear boundaries of what we will and won't tolerate. Whether it's a gossipy coworker, an overly critical family member, or a toxic romantic relationship, eliminating interactions with people who bring down your good energy will leave room for more positive energy to enter. Okay? Break up with friends who don't support you. Not all friendships are meant to last forever, and that's fine. While you shouldn't casually discard friendships over minor arguments or inconveniences, you should grant yourself permission to move on from relationships that no longer nourish and support you. If you feel exhausted just by the idea of hanging out with someone, it's probably a sign that you should move on. Take the space you need from toxic family members. Friends are hard to part ways with, but family members are even harder. One of the best recommendations I can offer is to set limits on the amount of time you wish to spend interacting with toxic people. Make sure to keep conversations positive, pleasant, and focused on that person. By keeping the focus of the conversation on them, you're purposely keeping yourself safe from unwanted drama while maintaining the relationship, if that's what you want to do. We're all on different paths. You have a relationship with everyone you've ever had an interaction with. That relationship can last just a moment, a lifetime, or anything in between. In each relationship you cross paths and learn from one another. And since each of us are on different paths, you might only be walking side by side each other for a little while. You might also cross paths again later on. Understand that throughout your life, there will be many people who you meet, love, learn, and that ultimately you play a role in determining how long you walk along a certain path. So you don't want to stay on a path where you're not happy. You can always change paths. Learning to say no. I know so many of us are afraid to say no. We don't like to tell people no. But in order to cut down on the chaos in your own life, you've gotta make it a priority to keep your plate filled with the right amount of work that your mental health can handle. Many times this means learning how to say no. Sure, you might feel guilty the first few times you turn down the people who ask you for favors, but it will get easier with time. As you practice, remind yourself why you're saying no. Offer those reasons to the person if you feel comfortable doing so. And remember that by saying no, you're saying yes to things that you want to do and you want to spend your time and energy on, because there's not enough time to do everything. So say yes to the things you want to spend time and energy on, and those things that you just don't have time for, say no and stop feeling guilty. Bowing out gracefully. How to exit social situations that are stressing you out. We've all sat through awkward and draining interactions. Yet the line between being polite and saving yourself from the stress of staying too long can be difficult to draw, right? So here's a tip. Spend 5 minutes chatting with a person who's polite. 10 minutes is more than enough. Any longer than that, and you have every right to excuse yourself. However, if you feel that you're in danger, or if the person is acting racist, misogynistic, or obscene, just say, excuse me, I've got to go, and walk away. Okay? So these are things to do. And you can do those even in a workplace situation. A lot of times, especially in today's society, people are like, oh, well, customers are always screaming and yelling. Yes, but if most businesses nowadays, or at least should, have policies in place to where their staff are not being verbally abused by patrons. So if you are being verbally abused or whatever the situation may be by a patron in your establishment, just grab a manager. Say, hey, you know what? Let me grab somebody else. Maybe they can help you out better than I can. Or if you are the manager, you have the right to say, I'm sorry, but I'm not able to help you if you continue yelling at me. If you continue speaking to me this way, it makes it very hard for me to help you. Or just kind of trying to turn the conversation on to, well, these are the solutions that I have. And if this isn't going to solve the issue, then let me see if I can find someone else. Because even as a manager, you can always get someone else on the phone or get someone else involved from higher up, as much as we don't like to do that, to try to pull them in and have them help you so that you're not being verbally abused or threatened by a patron. Especially nowadays, I feel like a lot of businesses are having to go back and redo their policies on this just because of the fact that it's becoming such a common thing, because we've said the customer is always right for so long that now we're having issues within this realm and needing to create a safe space for our staff in the retail world, and even in any establishment at this point. But now that we've covered the ways to eliminate excessive external stress and chaos in your life, I'd like to take a moment to remind you how important it is to keep close to people who love you and support you. For many of us, it can feel as though there's no one who fits into this category. If this is the case for you, consider reaching out to support groups for people who share the same interests as you, whether in person or virtually. Any positive connections you can curate will help bring you peace of mind. Create spaces that bring you calmness. We're done talking about other people. Now let's focus on you and your space. If you've ever watched a home makeover show, you know how important your physical space is when it comes to mental well-being and how much it can impact it. From a cluttered bathroom to a poorly lit office space, the amount of time you spend in these spaces can directly impact our psychological health. My 3 favorite ways to make a space feel better: ditch the clutter, add more light, and adopt a plant. Add a plant to your space. Add some light. Get rid of all the clutter. It'll make you feel 1,000,000 times better. Okay. Curate good energy with positive reminders. While you're refreshing your space, bring in colors, pictures, quotes, and anything else that brings you a little bit of joy when you look at it. If you're at a loss for where to start, try creating a mood board filled with pictures of things that catch your eye throughout the day. Walk through a fun furniture store or create a Pinterest collection. Generate positivity by spreading compliments. One of my favorite ways to curate positivity is to spread it. Take the time out of each day to look for something kind in someone, compliment a stranger, or just share a smile. Check out how you think about others. Do you find yourself being judgmental towards others? Next time you catch yourself throwing shade, pause and shift your thoughts into something positive about that person or situation. Check in with how you speak about yourself. We are our own worst critics. And after decades of bullying ourselves, obviously our mental health takes a toll. Next time you look in the mirror or start thinking destructive thoughts, stop and list out a few things you're grateful for. Use your breath as a tool. There are lots of ways that we could start curating a world around us that brings positivity and pushes negativity away. But stress will still find a way to creep in. When that happens, focus on your breathing. Slow it down and try to mimic the sound of waves. Slow and steady with a brief pause between inhales and exhales. Yoga for your mental health. Exercise is good for the body. It's actually great for the body. And if you want to take an extra step to connect the body and mind, yoga is definitely something you should try. Yoga focuses so heavily on breath, the asanas or movements or poses, turns the whole practice into kind of moving meditation, which is proven to combat stress. Find outlets for stress and anxiety. If yoga's not your thing, that's perfectly fine. Find something that serves as an outlet to focus your mind in the present moment that you can turn to when you're feeling stressed, whether it's cooking, crafting, coloring, petting a cat, tending to a garden or a houseplant. Taking the time in your day to bring your mind away from anxiety and back to the present moment is all what mindfulness is about. Giving yourself time to feel your feelings. While it's important to learn ways to cope with stress, your goal shouldn't be to distract yourself. Instead, finding a way to release your thoughts, worries, and anxieties. If you have the means to connect with a mental health professional, do so. Otherwise, try writing your thoughts in a journal. Getting them out of your mind and into solid thoughts will help you gain new perspectives. Keep a gratitude journal. Speaking of journaling, one of the best ways to train your brain to think more positively is to practice gratitude daily. Gratitude rewires our brains so that we become more likely to focus on the positives in the world than the negatives. We're not going to become ignorant of danger if we appreciate the positives for a little while, but we will become more open to the good. Spend some time getting to know yourself. As we come to the end of our time together, I've saved the most important piece of advice for last. Dedicate time to learn how to love yourself. Sometimes the best way to practice self-love is to learn how to enjoy your own company. Take yourself out to a movie or dinner, or if possible, a solo trip. Once you learn how to love and cherish yourself and your worth, everything else will fall into place. The following resources were used to create this event: HeySigmund.com, ThriveGlobal.com, RealSimple.com, Positivity Blog, Mind Body Green, blogs.PsychCentral, HuffPost, Mindful.org, and MindfulPathways.com were all used to create this. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've reached the end of this event, but it's just the beginning of your journey towards a more positive, mindful life. If you have any questions or concerns or would like additional information about any of the topics we discussed, please feel free to reach out to me at healthyandfitbyjessica@gmail.com. I also invite you to schedule a free wellness session with me. It is healthyandfitbyjessica@gmail.com as well. If you want to do that, you can also send me an email, or you can go to healthyandfitbyjessica.com and request an appointment on the website. Email is typically easier for me, but either one works. I do have very affordable pricing for the very reason that I want to be able to help as many people as possible. So please don't feel like at any given time it's too expensive for you to work with a coach. To work on your health and wellness goals, be it mindfulness and the other different things that we have. I offer support with mindfulness, goal setting, fitness goals, nutrition goals. I'm also a certified personal trainer for those of you that don't know, but all of these things work hand in hand together. And I do like to make sure my clients are getting the biggest bang for their buck. So please, by all means, do not hesitate to reach out. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.